Hello and welcome to episode 139. If you're wondering where 138 was, that was the Christmas special of the AutoTalk Weekly Wrap, and it is the first of 2026. And this started all the way back in COVID. This started all the way back at like the end of COVID, so it's taken a while to get this far, I think.
We wouldn't want to divide the number of shows, the number of actual weeks we've had. We have missed a few, haven't we?
And we get through periods where we're pretty consistent, but
yeah,
we're busy people. And then there certainly has been a slowdown since I took on the travel load that comes with owning a New Zealand auto car. But yeah, it's not like I've already got 3 international trips planned this year. But, you know.
There's a recurring theme with this one, Richard. But no, the show has been going for a little while now, and it's covered a number of very interesting topics along the way. So glad to see you here. Glad to see you're still watching.
And now I'm not saying he's never going to be here, but we are entering the post-David Crawford era. So taking applications now for a third player, that sounded dodgy, to join to join us on screen. So if you have many years of experience in the automotive industry or you're just a loudmouth, then let us know. Yeah. And how are you doing, Graham? You're in a new office there.
I am, not that you can tell, but there's nothing behind me apart from a nice little cold AC unit behind me and some bare walls. So, and a lot of echo, so there's nothing in here. Yes, I'm in a new office. It's only I suspect that it's probably a temporary home, but it is the great shift of Croydon's at the end of 2025 occurred. And so the dealership is relocated within Henderson to a smaller and honestly far more cost-effective location than we were previously. And we had been there for some 26 years on that previous site.
You've right-sized, Graham. That's what they're doing. They're right-sizing. It's not downsizing. It's not moving. It's right-sizing.
Yeah, and I think there's probably, to be honest, there's a lot of dealerships, I think, particularly in the used sector, they're looking at the same sort of thing right now, just sort of evaluating after the horrors of 24, 25, what is actually fit for purpose now for the business? What do you need? What do you project yourself to be doing in a year or two's time? Because let's face it, a lot of leases have been coming up around this time. During the early phase of the downturn, I guess you were prepared to commit a bit longer and see how things would roll. But now you've had a couple of years working out what's actually going to be likely for the business going forward, and it's time to take action. And that may involve downsizing or upsizing or just scaling to whatever works for particular requirements. For us, it was a case of the import market that we play in has become a really fractured beast in terms of what works and what doesn't, and you've got to find a market niche that works for you. And if that means a smaller profile and that works, then so be it.
Yep. No, exactly. Hey, look, you can always take on a Chinese franchise. I hear there's a few out there.
Well, every week I read there could be some more, so you never know. But at any rate, no, I'm still at this stage a gun for hire, so to speak. So I'll just put it out there once again, never miss an opportunity to plug on the show. But I am at the stage looking to see what other opportunities there might be out. And I'm being open about this too here at the team. Everyone knows, but if you've got something in your organisation that you think might fit an old experienced industry player like myself, certainly let me know.
I was trying to work out if there was a smudge on my screen, or if there's a mark on your shirt. I think there's a mark on you. I think it's a bit of both. I think there was a smudge on my screen and a mark on your shirt.
There is a mark. Is that a mark just there?
Yeah.
Yes, that's this morning with the yard cat, Mankey.
Oh, good old Mankey. Did Mankey move? How did Mankey move?
And if you don't follow the Croydon social media, this little bit here, but we do have a yard cat, had the yard cat for the last 10 years, just part of the furniture. Customers loved her, bit of a social media star as well, and we were really concerned that she wouldn't make the move, and she has, and now she's taken up residence on my desk. My hand has got plasters on it from where she cuts me as she digs her claws in as she sits there all day pawing me. And
lovely,
and shirts and bits and pieces and food and dribble and stuff, which is not necessarily a good look. Mankey moved.
Right. Anyway, we should probably do some news at some point today. And that point is about now. There is a lot, but I have had to filter down because Normally it's a pretty quiet Christmas period. This year, though, I worked through, and there has been a lot out there. And I think this year, with the way the holidays fell, a lot of people were back a bit earlier than I think normal. I think there were a lot of people back this week. Normally, a lot of people went back till next week, but I found most people were back this week. So quite interesting on that one. And even a lot of people back the previous week in the government and management classes, which is where a lot of the news drives out of. So yeah, interesting year and a lot going on. Right, moving on through them, we'll start off with the market, of course. We'll touch on the market because, it's what pays the bills. Starting with new vehicles. The new vehicle market stabilized in 2025. Activity edges higher. The Motor Association says New Zealand's new vehicle market tracked higher year on year from June, supported by stronger spring activity before easing at the end. In other words, there was a really big rental season this year. Massive rental. Yeah. Total of 9,304 new vehicles registered in December 2025, representing a 9.8% decrease, down 1,011 units compared with December 2024.
It wasn't a bad month for new, and if we're looking at comparing it year on year is one thing, because let's face it, we've had some pretty horrible times to compare things to. But it would seem that the trend is that there's a cautious return to the market in buyer activity across all the sectors.
Yeah. No, definitely. 2 seconds. I'm just checking something here. Carry on. I need a second.
Checking the statistics. Well, while he's doing that, I'm just pointing it out, Richard, that I always think we're sometimes too eager to compare year-on-year numbers, which don't always tell the full trend. If you're in the industry right now, you know just what a rotten time we've had through the first part of 2025. And what I think most business operators are looking at is not the year-on-years, is how the trend is shaping up almost month on month. Are we seeing an ascendance of buyer activity or not? Because if I was a person in the banking sector, I'd be looking far closer at how we're tracking on a month-to-month basis, rather than, hang on a second, I'll just go off my screen here for a second. There we are. Rather than looking year on year. I want to know what's happening on the trends now. And the trend right now doesn't look too bad.
Yeah, the trend is certainly moving in the right direction. We're seeing some change occurring in the numbers around property, all those kind of things, all the good stuff. Is it going to jump back straight away? No.
No, it's not.
But are you selling cars at the moment? I mean, is stuff happening? When we've had the last few streams, or when we're talking to you more recently, you do seem like there are actually customers floating around more so than there was in the middle of last year.
Yeah. So this week's been really quiet, and we actually thought we might see a bit of a lift in activity as people sort of get back from holiday and start thinking about cars and stuff before the kids go back to school. We had quite a good run in the first part of the month, but this week's been a lot quieter than expected. So I don't know. So it's been a quiet week, and I hear that's been echoed across a number of other dealers that we speak to or people that we talk to, that it's been not such the week we expected. Is that because everyone went back to work rather than looking at cars? I don't.
Torrential rain?
Well, yeah, we had that for a day or two, didn't we? But you know what? I actually had people here yesterday in the middle of torrential rain buying a car. So that doesn't necessarily always stop people either, particularly if that's the only time slot they have available to go car shopping before they go back to work. Rain or no rain, people will still come out and buy cars.
Yeah. Speaking of used, I mean, just to have a quick look at the used numbers. Used market faced a challenging year in 2025. Full year for passenger and commercial set at 89,188, down from 103,925 recorded in 2024. So 15,000 units lower. Let's run the calculator over this.
2023, Richard?
Oh, it's even lower than 2023.
Yeah, I was going to say, because the trend has been one of going down. If we look at the 24 numbers, we say, well, okay, 25 has been poor in comparison. I think 24 was poor in comparison to 23. We've we've certainly seen a trend downwards rather than up. And
here's a calculation I like to run. What's the average cost of a import coming into the market on retail, Graham?
Well, I still think the average number right now appears to be that in terms of cost, we're looking at the averages still seem to be around that sort of $10 to $12 to $13,000. That's a dominant part of the sector, which covers stock all the way from a retail of sort of $9,000 up through $17,000, $18,000. It's always been the market sweet spot.
So if we said that's $168 million less into the market last year, into the used import market. That adds up. Yes,
it does. It does.
Yeah.
And it's particularly evident in some of the service businesses that rely wholly upon volumes. If you look at the compliance sector, for example, we've seen a decline in the last year of compliance shops that have just shut up and gone home because there just aren't the numbers to substantiate a business model, everything from grooming companies. I'm just thinking around here locally, we've seen a reduction in the number of panel and paint, of groomers, of service providers, because the numbers aren't coming through. And it doesn't need to be much to tail off to see those businesses out of business. The line dips below profitability, and they're making some hard decisions about what to do next.
Interestingly, even the Twitter Aqua declined, and that can't be good for you.
Well, and there's the thing: the Aqua is becoming a harder car to obtain in Japan. It's still a great car to sell in New Zealand, but it's as much about what you actually can't access in the Japanese market. And the changes that came about with the clean car standard and the reduction in the CO2 values doesn't necessarily have any effect upon those. Although somebody pointed out to me, if the industry is starting to refocus a little bit more on the vehicles they previously were unable to buy for reasons of the financial burden, and they were forced to look at those sort of top 10 models that are there in part because that's all you could buy in volume, does that take some of the heat off those popular models where dealers that were buying Aquas simply because that's all they could buy, now they're back into that people mover market, the SUV market and things? It just takes a bit of that pressure off the rest of us that would always be buying Aquas, but we're competing against dealers that could buy nothing else and had to pitch into that market. I don't know. Yeah. We'll see that in 26.
The Croydon's business model, ABBA, always be buying Aquas.
Yeah, really. If you look out there right now, you'd say, yep, still got Aquas, but there's plenty of other bits and pieces that we do buy as well. We look at what works for our particular market. I'm not saying it works for anybody else, but there's also a reason why that car is so popular. And one of the reasons is simply accessibility in Japan for the product at a price that works for New Zealand. Is it the best car for New Zealand?
If you're short of stock, Graham, I have a beautiful one lady owner Holden Cruise 2013 SRIV, white with the black leather, full dealer service history, sell like hotcakes in West Auckland.
If you're not shaking your head right about now watching this program going, oh really, then you don't know very much about cars, do you? All hail to the mighty Holden Cruise. Yeah, the funny thing about that is when the Holden Cruise first entered the market in New Zealand, was that 2011 or 2012? 11, I think it was. Even 2010. You gave me one to drive. So Holden had a surplus of press cars, and I was at that stage. I was riding and driving a few vehicles for you, and we were comparing notes. And you gave me one to drive, and I really liked it. And I say again, they're actually a really nice car.
It was an outlier, though, wasn't it? That was the 1.8 diesel sedan, wasn't it?
No, you gave me a 1.4 turbo sedan.
Ah.
Yeah, ITI turbo. And it was in white, as I do believe. I've still got photos of it somewhere. And I really liked it. And I thought this is actually a really well-sorted, comfortable car, lots of spec, lots of features, drove really well. So when they first came in the market, I thought they were a good package. It's just that I had to get involved with them financially downstream, like most dealers. And then the gloss came off.
Yes. This is one of the Australian-built ones rather than the Korean-built ones. I'm not sure if it makes much of a difference, but yeah. Anyway.
Experience has told us no. But I'm sure there's somebody out there watching this right now saying, what do you mean? They're the best car Holden ever built. I've made a fortune out of those things. And I'm sure there's a few from the warranty companies going, just don't. So...
Anyway. Some interesting stats. And this is from TradeMe's regular Automotive Insight reports came out yesterday. Interesting stuff around market trends on average time to sell. So the average time to sell has kind of peaked and dropped slightly, but the age of stock has actually gone up. Oh, sorry, average time online has actually gone up. And what that means is that there seems to be a divergence between popular stock or fresh popular stock and stuff that's just struggling to move. So the market is showing signs of strain as the gap widens between vehicles that sell quickly and those left languishing in yards, according to the latest Automotive Insight report from Trade AutoGrab. The December AAR reveals the telling divergence. While the average time to sell dropped to 55.5 days as buyers snapped up freshly listed stock, the average time online for unsold vehicles climbed to 70.53 days, the highest point since January 2025. The data suggests buyers are increasingly selective, gravitating towards new listings while older vehicle stock accumulates. The dealers facing floor plan financing costs, that growing pool of aged inventory represents mounting pressure on cash flow. Total sales fell 6.5% month on month to 43,045 units, while vehicles listed for sale dropped 5.8% to 67,225, reflecting typical seasonal cooling headed into the holiday period. The Senate performer was plug-in hybrids, which defied the broader trend, with sales surging 81% from 443 units. The Ford Ranger top sales with 1,827 units. Auckland was 45% of the national market, and dealers hold 77.9% of listings and 74.7% of sales. Go check out the report. You can find a link to it on our story. Really, really interesting, good data there. I'm going to have a cheeky suggestion here, though, Graham. And this may be me misreading how stuff works, because this seems to be a divergence that happens every year around January. Is this just because there's not as many people in the office to take listings offline and put them back online to take them to the top of the list again?
No. I think there's actually a market trend. I'm going to call it the saggy rubber band. Think of it like a rubber band in your listings. Okay, so it's going like this, with the old stuff over here and the new stuff over here, and you're selling all the new stuff as it comes into the yard. Your old stuff is still sitting on the yard, and it's going like this in terms of an age profile, but the band is sagging in terms of buyer interest. And it's a really interesting one that I think the industry has struggled with for years and years and years. We talk about the 30-day stock, the 60-day stock, the 90-day stock. When do you cut it? What do you do? Why didn't that vehicle sell? And you know what? There's one thing that experience has taught me here, and I'm going to go out on a limb, and I know a lot of you won't agree with me, is there's a bum for every seat. And sometimes the only reason why a car doesn't appear to have sold is because the right bum didn't turn up. And it's really frustrating as a dealership.
You're being very, very, very rude about some of the locals who wander around your new yard location, Graham.
We've had some interesting ones wandering past, Richard. We have. I learned a new term, by the way, just to digress. It's called the golden Rolex. Do you know what a golden Rolex is? It's an ankle bracelet from the Department of Corrections.
That's different to the golden Rolex I'm going to get. I'm off to Vietnam in a couple of months, and I'm intending to buy a totally genuine Rolex. Yeah.
However, isn't it funny? People do tend to notice your older stock, but then you have a car that's been sitting around for much longer than it should, and it owes you all the wrong money. And then somebody wanders in and says, "That's a beautiful car. I love that. Can I buy that, please?" Here's the issue. 4 or 5 years ago, stock got old. As it aged on your yard, get rid of it, replace it with something else, because you can invariably replace it cheaper than you could the stock that you're just trying to get rid of. So turn it over, put the money in the tin, buy something else. The problem that's occurred in the last couple of years, in the last year in particular in Japan, is the stuff hasn't got cheaper, it's got more expensive. So you carve up the unit here to take the money back to Japan to buy, only to find you can't replace that car for the same price as you've just carved up its predecessor. So what do? And I think stock has aged on dealerships, not so much because it's just poor management of your stock, because you know that you can't replace it. If you can't replace it, why would you sell it? Here's the paradox.
The saggy rubber band paradox, trademarked.
Yep. Yeah, I'll trademark that. Also golden Rolex too. You can thank me for that.
Yes. Right, vehicle arrivals total 18,512 units in December. So this is the short-term stats you're looking for. Number of new and used vehicles arriving at New Zealand ports in December 25 totaled 18,512 units, up from 15,818 units in November. So arrivals slightly down. December figures were 15,744 passenger cars, comprising 6,734 used and 9,000 new. Now that, of course, is below the number of used vehicles actually getting sold, so that's not a good thing.
I do think that we're going to see a bit more effect of the changes to the CO2 value of the sort of the 2-year hiatus in terms of CCS, or whatever the acronyms we have to use now. I think we'll start to see that flow on through into the new year. A lot of traders, I think, have to get their heads around what the new stock mix might look like, what they need to buy for their customers, what they can buy. So I think we might start to see that flow on through in the months coming on. Don't forget, the stock that arrived in the month of December, most of it, well, a lot of it was prior to the announcement made around the changes anyway, or certainly prior to dealers making a commitment to buy that stock. We'll see that change coming downstream, probably January, certainly in February, we'll see the results of that.
Right. In some somewhat surprising but interesting news, and I'd see it as a bit of a positive for a friend of the show. One Partner co-founder returns to the dealership sector. One Partner Limited co-founder and occasional co-host of this show, Amos Banbury, will leave the automotive finance business on 30th of January 2026 to return full-time to motorcycle dealership operations. You can't. It's something I see so often. You can't keep a guy away from the floor. One Part Limited co-founder, Banbury, who co-founded One Part Limited with Sam Kavanagh, which trades a bit of finance, says he will focus on Casbots, the Christchurch motorcycle dealership group. Banbury played a key role in developing One Partner from its early stages through its current operation of more than 20 advisors serving customers around New Zealand's automotive finance sector. The pair have been equal partners in both businesses, with the transition involving a reciprocal buyout arrangement. Kavanagh will acquire Banbury's stake in One Partner, while Banbury will buy out Kavanagh's interest in Casbolts. Amos was instrumental from day one, says founder and director Kavanagh. He helped build not just the foundation of the business, but also the culture and capability of the team we have today. A team of 20 plus advisors supported by strong systems and infrastructure, delivering great outcomes of customers every day. And that's it's interesting, that comment, because I've spent some time in the One Partner offices, had a look around. They have ridiculously good systems, very strong systems. And it'll be interesting to see what old Sam throws back into his dealership operation now that he's got a bit of time to play with that. Banbury says it's been an absolute pleasure building One Partner alongside Sam and working with such a talented team. I'm proud of what we've created together and the quality of service the team delivers. I'm now looking forward to my next challenge, returning to my motorcycle passion and focusing 100% on the Casbolts dealership. Knowing Amos, I hope he just actually slows down a little, because that dude is one of the hardest working people I have ever met.
Yeah.
And the fact that he's now going to be able to concentrate on a business that's only a few minutes from home is awesome. So congrats, Amos. Congrats, Sam. I'm sure they'll both carry on and succeed the crap out of both those businesses.
Well, Amos is probably watching this. I know he does watch the show. So if you are Amos, I mean,
I know I've been speaking to him. He's in a 10 a.m. dealer meeting with dealers, so he's he just doesn't stop working.
He's the consummate trader, and I think sometimes the love of trade, the love of doing business. That's Amos through and through. And I suspect probably as much a return to the roots, the stuff that you really enjoy and you're really good at. He's the guy you want to have helming up your dealership in terms of just making all those little bits and pieces happen. Welcome to the fray.
I guess that's the sign of the guy. He's got the check and he's out the door and he's still working on the business. So that's Amos for you. Yep. Anyway, we'll catch you soon, mate. He'd probably have time to come back on the show now.
You never know.
Speaking of brands, GAC launched in New Zealand yesterday with some pretty sharp pricing. Chinese automaker GAC has officially launched in New Zealand with a 3-model lineup spanning petrol, electric, and plug-in hybrid powertrains, positioning itself competitively against established rivals. This isn't one of the more less obvious brands coming through. This is a This is a big one. These guys are big players in China. They are one of the big government-owned ones. They are very big in southern China, where they're headquartered in Guangzhou, and they build some very nice vehicles. I've had a look at some of them in the past. Spent a lot of time in the back of them in China because in the Guangzhou area, they are the main taxi. So yeah, the Guangzhou Automobile Group Co., China's fifth largest vehicle manufacturer, confirmed pricing at an Auckland event yesterday, with models starting from $31,990 before on-road costs. Leading the range is that very stylish-looking GS3 N-Zoom compact SUV, priced at $31,990 and powered by a turbocharged 1.5-litre four-cylinder engine. So that's pretty good. But the real bargain, I think, is the Aeon V, which is actually, it's a shared vehicle with Toyota. So it's a Toyota version of this also, which is priced from $49,990 for the premium model, $51,990 for the luxury, which has a 75 kilowatt hour LFP battery and 510 kilometers of range. So that segment of the market, you'd be normally looking at 50 to 60 kilowatt hour batteries and kind of high 300s, mid 400 range. So that kind of sets the market. It's a big volume vehicle. It's getting close to, it's probably RAV4 in kind of size and interior volume, even though it looks a little bit smaller in footprint. DC fast charging at up to 180 kilowatts, so that's pretty darn high as well. Big spec. It's got a 6.6 litre refrigerator that can freeze to minus 15 or cook your pie to plus 50, which is good. And then people movers. You know, we've seen a big segment of the market, or a significant but small segment of the market, importing pretty much new Alphards out of Japan and selling them for moonbeams. Well, this thing is developed and built by a Toyota partner, wink wink, has a grille off a Lexus people mover, the Lexus version of the Alphard, or the Alphard, that's the matter itself, comes in a PHEV form with a fairly big 25 kilowatt hour battery, and it starts at 85 grand. So that one might catch a few eyes, I think. Now, I know a lot of those buyers are buying an Alphard for the Alphard element, but that is, I think, about $50,000 less than what a near new Alphard lands at. So, just saying.
Still going to have no trouble selling late model Alphards and Velfires, just saying, Richard. That's the market.
I know.
Around the
I know.
Now, here's two questions for you. Here's two questions for you to ask. One is the distributorship, is it they're self-distributing, or have they established themselves with a partner?
It is a locally owned, family-owned operation at this stage. They went fairly big yesterday. They had what's his name? The mayor, Auckland mayor, what's his name?
Wayne Brown, last I looked.
Wayne Brown, he spoke there. But it's interesting. He seems very much into his Chinese vehicles because he drives a BYD Seal, a decision that you would wholeheartedly agree with, Graham, I'm sure. You're a fan of that car. He was at an MG event that I went to recently, and then he's at a GAC event. So he must have very strong ties to the Chinese automobile distribution community.
Second question is, whose lunch is it going to cut?
Well, that is going to be the interesting one. I certainly think there's a couple of areas where they're going to take the money out of it, isn't there? This is the Aeon V is probably one of the cars that could potentially appeal to some Model Y buyers. Certainly, it's going to have a crack at that kind of mid-size EV market, and it kind of is approaching it with a bigger battery, bigger size, better charging compared to some of the market cars in that segment already. I think the big thing that they're going to struggle with is they haven't developed a particularly big dealership network yet. One of those aspects is, and I'll talk sideways here because there's how would I put this? A new vehicle brand in New Zealand that a lot of dealers were attracted to this has been putting their foot down in regards to dual franchising. And I know there's some murmurs around that. So it's actually getting a little bit more difficult for new brands at the moment to secure good established dealers. There are some franchises that are putting their foot down and stopping it. So it's going to be interesting to see. There could be a wee bit of niggle floating on about that in the near future, I think.
That's not
Dealer network
surprising.
dealer network is the harder thing to work on. These guys are starting with Auckland, Tauranga, and Hamilton, but they'll move pretty fast. I think it's the key point.
Yeah. And again, one of the issues that the industry faces from a consumer perspective is giving consumers the confidence that there's going to be parts, service, backup, everything else they need for their new vehicle. And so, for example, one location in Auckland, looking at what gives confidence to consumers, that to me is a really big part of it. Is there going to be the network to support consumers to give them confidence to buy? Now, if they feel that the network isn't there, that could be an impediment towards going forward. And you're right, because so many established players already have multiple different franchises from multiple different genres, as it were. How do you cram another one in effectively? And how do you stop that new entrant to your dealership? As I said, just simply cutting the lunch of the other product that you sell. What sort of priority do you give to the new brand coming on through, the new boy on your block, so to speak? How many brands on a single site is enough?
Yeah. I guess the question, though, is if you've got an established franchise that's not moving the numbers that it used to,
and you know what? Without naming names, we all look at the numbers. There's a couple of established brands out there right now that are not moving the numbers at all like what they used to. And if you start dividing it down by the dealerships and staff, you think, man, something has to move here. Something has to give. And we just have so many of these new entrants coming into the market, taking their little slice, but that slice is coming from somewhere else. The numbers aren't stratospherically hitting up in the number of new car sales occurring. We're trending upwards. We're trending upwards as much because the market itself is changing and there's more people coming back into the new car sector. But I'm just not sure how many more brands we can sustain without some lossage there somewhere else to established players.
Yes, well, we will see. I'll drive them soon, see what they're like. I certainly like sitting in the back of them. Lots of rear leg room. Anyway, Two Cheap Cars. They've lifted their financial year 2026 profit outlook on improved trading momentum. Two Cheap Cars says trading performance has improved through the latter part of the third quarter and into the early first quarter of the 2026 financial year, prompting an upgrade to its profit outlook. The NZX-listed used vehicle retailer says the strong performance has been driven by improved vehicle margins and robust finance and F&I insurance F&I penetration rates, reflecting what it describes as a continued focus on operational execution and customer value. Third part is where it really gets into probably why the company says the recent government adjustments to the carbon credit rates and the Clean Car Standard are also supporting margins. As vehicles accepted into inventory under the revised settings are sold, the benefits are expected to continue through the fourth quarter of financial year 2026.
Now, that's an interesting point here. Just a very interesting point around the Clean Car credits. It's been suspected by a lot in the industry for quite some time, the likes of 2CC, for right or wrong, were not factoring in at all the cost to their clean car carbon obligations, as it were, to the pricing of the vehicle, and were burning through the stockpile as they went. And that was reflected in their what they were less than happy with the performance through 2025, in part because they'd burnt through or perhaps were paying for those credits, but they were not being reflected in the value of the vehicle being sold. And at some point in time, that ride has to come to an end. There's only so many aquas you can import to support the number of premises and Alphards and Voxes and bits and pieces you're bringing in instead. So there may have been a fairly large readjustment thanks to the changes around what we referred to as CCS to go forward.
Yes. Let's go through this quickly. I just brought a note, but I don't want to make a big thing of it. But we did have a bit of a story come over the break in regards to safety, and I think this is not a issue that is entirely on the distributor. I think there's a failure of the media and myself here around this. And also, I want people to remember that distributors in New Zealand don't always fully control what ends up on the road. That was that the Dongfeng box sold in New Zealand lacked side airbags and deemed unrated by safety authorities. The Dongfeng box currently on sale in New Zealand has just 2 airbags and does not match the safety specifications of the vehicle tested by Euro NCAP, leaving it officially unrated by both NCAP and NZTA. New Zealand Transport Agency Waikatai has taken the step of labelling the vehicle unrated on rightcar.govtnz. NZTA has assigned the Dongfeng box an unrated label on rightcar after it's identified the Dongfeng box has a lower level of crash protection than would normally be expected for a 2025 vehicle. It explained in the statement. That is pretty strong words as far as a government department goes on a commercial product. The move is significant because the vehicles without a valid overseas crash rating typically receive a 5-star VSRR, vehicle safety risk rating. However, NCA has declined to award this default rating to the box. Priced at $29.98, the box is New Zealand's cheapest electric vehicle currently available, and I really like it. It's a cool little car. It's a funky little car. The company has confirmed that Lexus idea. Go down a little bit. Gets a bit technical there. The box is an unrated vehicle car as per right car and has been since launch. ADL General Manager Eric Zywat told AutoTalk the best of AutoTalk's knowledge. No other new passenger vehicle sold in New Zealand, excluding commercial vehicles, comes with only 2 airbags as standard equipment. Basically, they've noted that this is the specification they were offered. It's an ASEAN right-hand drive market set. They took the highest specification available to them. I said, and when asked whether they believe the specification meets the safety expectations of modern Kiwi consumers, Zywat says, yes, we do, with a combination of ADAS and other features. So yeah, it's an interesting one there. NCAP's not going to convert the Euro NCAP rating either. One of the issues around this was when the vehicle was launched, while they didn't push the fact the car had a 3-star Euro NCAP, management was quoted from the launch, including by myself, as saying that the car was only 1 star off a 4-star Euro NCAP rating. So kind of it was linking the car to the original Euro NCAP rating despite the spec differences. So yeah, it's an interesting one there. It's going to be interesting to see what changes Dongfeng makes to the car. Their second car off the rank, the Dongfeng Vigo, does have a very comprehensive set of safety specifications and has been awarded a 5-star VSRR, not an NCAP rating, but a 5-star VSRR. So it's an interesting one there. I actually look at it as an interesting sideline here in that, I think we potentially will see in the near future calls for things like, we're seeing calls now for mandatory ADAS or ADAS features on used import vehicles. I think we may ultimately one day see the used imports need side airbags and curtain airbags as well. And does this dilute any call for that? I'm not sure. Let's see why there's a child at my door.
I was thinking the same point actually, Richard, around that. This is a very interesting little. Richard's reaching into the wall, like a movie extra, reaching into the green wall in the background there. But I think there is actually a point there to make, is that in 2025, and now I'm going to put my import hat on. In 2025, going into 26, clearly, there is not the mechanism to outrightly ban a vehicle from being sold brand new in New Zealand with 2 airbags, which says that this is a desired feature, but it's not a required feature. There's a very, very strong difference indeed. And the used import market, say it once again, has always been a market if we take the best possible available technology and specifications and offerings available through the market at the price the market in New Zealand wishes to pay. We're takers, not makers. And to an extent, New Zealand in the new car sector is also a bit like that too, is that in the case of Dongfeng, is it Dongfeng or Dongfeng? I think it's Dongfeng, isn't it?
Dongfeng, yeah.
Taken a specification that works within the market framework, a product that's available. But there, once again, Dongfeng New Zealand, as it were, is not the maker of the vehicle, it is the taker of the vehicle. So it says that Specification-wise, it's in a sense no different from importing a used vehicle from, say, Japan, with the best possible specification at the time to the regulation we have here at the time. And the regulation in 2026 in New Zealand says that you can sell a brand new vehicle with 2 airbags. NZTA's wording on it is also interesting I'm curious about the legal ability of the agency to make the statement that it has. If you look at it from a commercial perspective, commercial and the legal implications of the statement it has made, I'll be interested to see how that lies. But the other point I was going to say was, has this vehicle not been tested by ANCAP? Is that correct?
It's not been tested by ANCAP. It's not actually for sale in Australia, so it's unlikely to be tested by ANCAP.
Okay, so once again, it says that our market is an interesting little paddle point here. We place a lot of emphasis on ANCAP, and there's debate in Australia right now about whether ANCAP is actually a mechanism that's past its use-by date for the Australian marketplace, given the global gradual merging of standards applicable to vehicles being exported around the world. If you accept the standards of the common jurisdictions, so Europe, North America, Japan, you say, okay, well, these standards are therefore our standards. What relevance is ANCAP going on forwards? And in this case here, if ANCAP were to test that vehicle, what marginal difference would it make to that vehicle's rating and therefore accessibility to our market?
Mm-hmm. The interesting side I mentioned it earlier on was in regards to the failure of the media. No one checked. So ADL were very upfront that the car didn't have those features. Well, they didn't say it, but it's not hidden. It's in the brochure. It's in the specification on their website. Not a single member of the media in New Zealand wrote that into their original reviews, including myself. I put out 2 stories in a video, and I entirely missed it. Now, a lot of that's because we just assume now that these vehicles have these things, and okay, that's part of it. If it's an assumed thing, then, well, maybe that's not, it should be made clear, but they didn't hide it. We just didn't check. And I think it's really important that the motoring media remembers that not all things are always going to be the same, and we should check these things. Yeah, that's my little thing on that. If you want to hear more about safety too, I was on Radio New Zealand yesterday talking about buttons in cars. It was an interesting little thing. A lot of comments on the Radio New Zealand website. Check it out on their news section. It's up on Facebook as well. It's a good little piece there about ANCAP wanting to, ANCAP and global safety organisations basically wanting cars to bring back buttons for key features, because a lot of studies are showing that not having a button actually draws your eyes away towards the screen a lot more, and it is actually a safety issue. And I agree. I think there should be buttons, and I also agree with that there should be manual door handles too. Hot take.
Yeah, actually, funny enough, there is that debate going on right now with Tesla with the door handle issue. Is that in China now? I hear that the Tesla interior door mechanism has been.
It's not just a Tesla thing. It's a broader thing. Tesla's actually one of the lesser criminals on it. Well, lesser things like that. Most of the vehicles have actual manual door handles on the outside. It's a lot of these other ones that have pop-out ones, or the Ion V we saw before that has electric pop-out door handles.
Yeah.
Right. Let's run through these last few stories quickly. SEIC appoints new Australia-New Zealand leadership team. SEIC Motor International has appointed Qing Zhang as Chief Executive Officer for Australia and New Zealand, cutting leadership of the company's operations, including the MG brand. Zhang will retain his current role as Vice President SEIC Motor International while taking on the new position. He's also appointed Felix Jiang as Senior Vice President for ANZ based in Sydney. This is a replacement for Peter Chow, who's been around a long time. And he will assume an advisory role to ensure a smooth transition for staff, dealers, partners, and customers. He's been leading the operation for 8 years. If you want to read something interesting, there is, and I don't think it's necessarily connected, but there is a bit of a issue that's popped up in regards to MG Australia that some are linking towards this, but I'm not necessarily making that connection, where the company cut price on cars and raised price on cars and invoiced dealers for cars that had already been delivered. Bit of a concern there. One of the dealer associations is on that. So jump over to autotalk.com.au to have a look at that. Neo, this has kind of been figuring for a while. Neo plans to enter New Zealand late this year. Chinese electric vehicle manufacturer Neo plans to enter New Zealand and Australian markets in the second half of 2026 through its Firefly sub-brand. As the company expands, it's focused on right-hand drive markets. The expansion was confirmed in an interview to the Wall Street Journal, saying the company expects to launch its electric vehicles in both countries during the latter half of the year. So that's another one. They're about to enter Thailand. Of course, once they enter Thailand, that's a pretty big signal that they've got cars that come to our end of the world. This one has been going on for a very long time. Australian lender fails High Court removal bid. Australian lender Solvar has been unsuccessful in its attempt to remove itself from a High Court case brought by the Commerce Commission over alleged responsible lending breaches by its New Zealand subsidiary. The Commerce Commission alleges Go Car Finance, which specialised in making loans to people with less than perfect credit scores buying second-hand cars, failed to comply with lender responsibility principles under the Credit Contracts and Consumer Finance Act for loans made between 2019 and 2022. We all know the various cases that went through with Go Car. It's still kind of carrying on in courts. Of course, they stopped lending here quite some time ago. And a little note here, and this one is actually slightly old news now, but hanging around over the summer. The VIA board has welcomed Jim Shee as Frank Willett departs. The VIA has announced board changes with the departure of Frank Willett and appointment of Jim Shee as his replacement representing AutoHub. Willett stepped down from the VIA board following his departure from daily operations at AutoHub and the Hayward Group. His connection with VIA spans many, many years as a member, staff member, and more recently as a director. I remember going in as a young, pimply 20-something-year-old to the old office adjacent to the VINS testing station down behind Clearmount Drive.
It's now an IKEA.
A far younger Frank being there. Quite the operator, known and loved by many in the trade. Jim Shee, who's now Managing Director and Chief Executive of AutoHub, will take his seat. Jim is a very, very smart man, very good commercial mind, and I think he will be an asset to the VIA board. Can I say a nice few words about Frank, Graham?
Nothing more than anybody else has already said it, and it's all true. Frank has been exceptional in his career across the industry. There's no other way of putting it. And my first exposure to him was a bit like you in the very early days of the association when Frank was brought on board as one of the technical membership people on board. I'm not quite sure what he did actually. But Frank's actually been a mentor of mine through my career in the industry across a lot of different things that we've done. And you can always rely upon calling up Frank for some advice or a whinge, one of the two, and he'd always take the call. So his retirement from the industry per se, I think it leaves a pretty big hole because he was one of those rare people that not only had all the talent and skill, but he could actually project it, and he could bring people on board in a really almost a non-corporate environment. Very rare skill set indeed. So I'm sort of sad to see him exit the industry, but I know he's also probably going to have some time to actually retire and do some regular everyday stuff, because every single time Frank said, I'm just going to take it easy from this, I'm not doing this anymore, I'm going to take it easy. That was code for, I'm just taking on a much, much bigger project in my employment in about 5 days' time. It really was. But hey,
my thing with Frank was often very hard to tell when he called you if you'd done well or if you were in trouble.
Yeah, and also if Frank was calling you asking questions, you knew he already knew the answers. He was just seeing if you knew them.
Yes.
So, well anyway, done, Frank.
We'll try and catch you up for a wind down and blend him at some point. So yes,
I'm going to say he's in the right place for that. And you know what? Yes. Also, Jim is a really good, competent operator too. So I think they've made a smart move in Frank's replacement, both across the AutoHub side of the business, but also VIA as well.
Yeah. No, exactly. Excellent. Right. Thank you for joining us, everyone. Hopefully we will be here next week. Hopefully we can get back onto Patton. And yeah, applications for new co-host to richard@automediagroup.co.nz.
Talk to this guy.
Sweet. Catch you guys later.